All right, John Robb here, interviewing Jason Williamson about the great new Sleaford Mods album. I
Oh,
mean, what I want to start with is, I mean, it's longevity now. You're actually vintage veteran bands, but somehow, in a very tight, minimalistic format, you keep finding a way to reinvent the sound.
yeah. It's and I don't quite know how. I think it's just being conscious of that, and that itself will then prepare your approaches to whatever you're about to do in a way that will hopefully, garner that kind of success. It's important for that. I mean, but at the same time, there's it's just a fingers up to expectation and a fingers up to convention, really. But also as this goes on, it's just being conscious that yeah, it's good treading old ground. We've got a formula, we've got a method, and there's nothing wrong with using that, but also to just try and branch out a bit more. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, with each record, do you sort of react to the one before or to the idea of what people you are? Or is it just, like people, you're just in different moods and different places in your life?
Yeah, I mean, I liked the fact that UK Grim was kind of in the shadow of Spare Ribs. It was almost like, although it was the highest charting album we'd done, it and further, made us concreted our position as a band that are sticking around. I like the fact that it was underplayed. It was almost quite basic. So going into this one, I wasn't sure. It was like we we got about 22 demos together in January, and we did 16 by the end of January. We were in there for a week. I've been working on these ideas since early 2023, and I was convinced so at the end of it that we hadn't got anything, even though 5 of those ideas made the album eventually. I was going through this kind of almost existential nightmare, really. A bit of self-doubt creeped in. Not so much confidence, but just I was under the impression it needed to move on because things had changed so much. And did I have the ability to do that?
Oh, you mean like lyrically or
Yeah, lyrically.
sonically?
I
Yeah.
mean, as regards what as regards what Andrew does, he's like an oracle of genres. He's just like it's insane, really. It's whatever comes out of him is more is beyond contemporary. It's like just people aren't doing that shit, in my opinion, anyway. So it was more about what I was doing lyrically.
I mean, does the creative process change from the first days you worked with Andrew? Was there a period where he represents loads of loops, backing tracks, beats, ideas? You go through your little book, see which lyrics fitted, and has that kind of morphed and changed over the years?
A bit. He's always been. I've been telling a lot of people that he kind of forsake the engineering side of things in the studio, so we could both concentrate on production. But I think he's always had quite a, massive hand in picking up instruments. He's a lot better than me at just picking instruments up and, bringing to life an idea I've got in my head, So perhaps he's always done that. But with this one, it just struck me that, he does spend a lot of time engineering, and rightly so. It's a safe place in the sense of, that you've got control over what you're doing, but also he needs to engineer to a certain degree because his the way he mixes stuff is brilliant. Is without that it wouldn't be Sleaford Mods, in my opinion. So, but it also occurred to me that perhaps if he forsake that and we let the person that we were paying to do that just get on with it for that period in the studio, it might expand the sound a bit more, which it did.
Yeah, so I mean, he gives him and you like more of an overview than being sort of stuck
Yeah,
between two speakers on a mixing desk.
yeah, it just frees. It really did free it up for both of us. It changed. It changed the way we were in the studio. It was as if we had lots of toys to play with almost, and we had 6 months to write the album. We started in January. We had plenty of time. But yes, at the end of January, I was in a panic, just with myself, really. But that started to change when we went into Abbey Road, start of March.
Yeah, I saw that you've been into Abbey Road because normally you have your own setup, don't you, in Nottingham?
Yeah, well, we thought getting away from Knots might help as well, which it did. St John's Wood, you can't, it's fucking lovely, you know what I mean? So it's just like, yeah, we had a week down there. I was a judge for a photography awards thing at Abbey Road. And, the boss, Mark, sort of said, look, do you want to come down for a week? You can have a week in the studio free of charge. And I was just like, fuck, all right. So, we jumped on that, and it really did work out.
I mean, did that change sound? I mean, it's a much bigger space, isn't it? And all that history that it's got as well. I mean, did that affect the sonics at all?
It did, yeah. I mean, I was sending Andrew these crude acoustic voice notes, on my phone. I am useless at, I cannot work, music systems at all, or even a 4-track. I just can't, So I've got an acoustic guitar at home. And if I've got any ideas, well, I started to play it and, form ideas via, the guitar, which I hadn't done before really. And, I would send these to Andrew and just say, can you do anything with them? And, he totally transformed what I had got, which is about 3 or 4 songs around Elitist GOAT, Gina Was, Bad Santa, and Flood the Zone on guitar. And it completely revolutionized what we do, really. And they sound like, they almost sound like full band songs, those, to a certain degree. I mean, well, Bad Santa's a bit more hip-hoppy, but Gina Was as well is a bit more sort of punk, funk or whatever. But Elitist GOAT and Flood the Zone are, they sound like ska records, you know what I mean, to me.
I mean, I've sure read some of you saying the songs you're writing on the guitar, they're like the Ramones. I could totally understand how you like the Ramones. Super minimalistic, makes a point very quickly, and it's not the first Ramones album, Sleaford Mods. It's almost the same genre of music in an odd way.
Yeah. I was quite taken by that first Ramones album for a while, back in towards the end of 2023. Just the way he used his vocal. Obviously, he was very inspired by surf music and doo-wop, wasn't he? And blah blah blah. But this continuing crashing. So I started writing songs like that, which didn't translate to what Andrew did at all, really. But they were really different. But this is why it works so well with us. It's he will come up with something I would never dream of,
But what he comes up with works perfectly. I mean, is it? Would you say it's kind of like an odd couple, but a symbiotic relationship? It's like, so if you're, so whatever ideas you're thinking, he could translate into something different. But you think, wow, that's even better. Yeah.
Yeah, God, I mean, it's like he's picking all these instruments up and a lot of what he does is very 80s-ish, which obviously I love. But there's no point doing solo projects. We get to be solo artists in Sleaford Mods, It's almost like you don't feel like you have to satisfy any itch anywhere else, really. I mean, we both collaborate with other people, but it's the space is so vast in the the fabric and the formula of it, even though it's very minimal as well,
Yeah, do you find that whatever ideas you both come up with, even if they seem really different, they somehow just fit together?
Yeah, it's always, we make sure that whatever I send him chord structure, he kind of sticks to, because then I can put the melody on top, which I've been working on, which is the main thing. So the chord structures are the same, but it's just the aesthetic of the tune, the style of the tune,
And it's interesting to talk about the chord structures and the melodies, because I mean, some people think Sleaford Mods is kind of a noisy, shouty like man and some beats. But it's actually weirdly it's a pop music, isn't it? I mean, the last album got to number three, so that's proof that it's pop music because therefore popular. But it actually sounds like
Yeah,
pop music, and on this album, it's even more pop in a way. But I mean that in a good way as well, because pop
yeah.
music.
Well, I've always adhered to the pop formula with it because that's what makes sense. You know, I'm not one of these kind of soundscape artists, experimental artists, avant-garde or whatever, even though there are elements of that in it. But I've always stuck to a rigid formula, which is verse, chorus, bridge, middle eight, whatever, you know, and outro and intro, you know. So those are the golden rule, really, which is why I think it connects with people, you know.
I mean, lyrically, when it started, it was. I mean, of course, it'd be like this, but it's much more you against. It sound like you against the world, your personal frustrations, the world. But I think as time's gone on, it's more of an overview. I mean, it's still very personal take, but it's also an
Yeah,
overview of where we are at. And I think this album, in fact, it's got both in there, hasn't it? It's the frustration of the world that's in like a death by a thousand cuts, isn't it? It's not. It's not going to go out with a bang. This is it. It's actually going out with a
no,
lot of
it's
whimpers.
yes, lots of whimpers, and it will be for a while. You know, some pretty rough turbulence, I would imagine, and for the more privileged countries, I'm you think to yourself, well, is turbulent? Is the turbulence the only thing we're going to experience? But who knows? But yeah, things have become so vastly disappointing. Not only with the obvious culprits of the engineering of these social disasters and political disasters, but also the response from the mob, and the mob no longer is, in my opinion anyway, recognizable between right and left. It's like they're both just as fucking bad as each other. And it's kind of the disappointment of that and trying to talk about that. And when we started recording in January, this was the problem. It was like, this is fucking vast. We're not just talking about lockdown anymore. We're not just talking about anti-vaxxers or Remain or Leave, or Boris fucking Johnson. The whole thing's opened up now. So yes, it was trying to put that down into a handful of songs that was poignant more than anything, but also, just respectably good. You know what I mean?
I think like so much of the great British music, through punk specials, the whole lineage, it's that. Well, I used to call the magic and the mundane, but I now think it's the tragic and the mundane. This it's and what you do is that thing. The bus is late or the train's late, and it's the micro things in real life which are the front line of what's actually going on. The things that
Yeah.
affect people, aren't they? It's not. No one's expecting anybody in the band to come up with a socio-economic model to save the world, but it's kind of interesting to detail the frustration everyone feels every day. I think that's what you do so brilliantly.
Well, I think there's been a big trend in it, right from fuck knows. I mean, who could you say? Right from probably Dr. Feelgood, the Jam, especially, were pioneers of just normcore almost, of this normal take on everything, of not looking glamorous and exciting, just like normal people. And from there to the Stone Roses, in my opinion anyway, and etc. etc. So it's always appealed to me to just talk about the central eating. It's like I don't do glamour. It's like there is a place for that, of course there is, but that's not what I do.
I mean, do you find as the band gets more successful, it's harder to do that, or do you deliberately step out? I mean, obviously, you're not really in showbiz world, but there's temptations, of course. I mean, we
Well,
saw that with
it's
the.
really, yeah, you could do it if you wanted, but it's exhausting. It's like, who the fuck
Mm,
has got the time to do that?
yeah,
Like, it's exhausting to have a public face like that. It's another world entirely, and I think there's room for it. Of course there is, and there are people out there that do it really well. And I don't think I'm one of them people. I much prefer to be at home.
yeah. You're sort of sitting on the outside, sort of looking in, like everybody buys the records are, aren't they? So
Yeah,
You
but
kind of,
also it's a challenge to. It's like, who isn't real, for fuck's sake? It's like, who doesn't have real feelings? It's just stupid. We all do. So it's like, I'm gonna, set about writing a load of songs that continue to talk about that. With along with Andrew. It's like, what? That's the thing about it all. It's like, yeah, all right, yeah, I'm just gonna go out on stage and do that. It's just insane that people assume that that you can't do that anymore, which is it's just idiocy, really.
I mean, it's interesting also this album. It's some very personal songs as well. And I think, in a way, as much as you can within what you do, it shows a softer, more introspective side. Like on Good Life, where you're basically I'm not sure if you are directly, but sort of trying to deal with when you're slagging bands off, they got you into a bit of trouble. And it's you trying to deal with that. And I did see that, just had this little bit on that a couple of weeks ago. It's quite touching to see you done that thing with Idols as well. And I thought that's
Oh
good.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was a big moment, I think, on the contemporary sort of alternative band scene. That everyone's on the same barricade at last.
I think I apologised to him a couple of years ago, but I think, I wouldn't have liked me at all. And to Joe's credit, he was very open minded about it and accepted the apology. And I think it's over the last few weeks that we've started talking a bit more. Yeah, he's a lovely bloke, and they aren't the problem. The band just it's just so it was interesting how I would get wound up every time I saw pictures of them, because what are they? They're not doing. They've got nothing to do with what we're doing. It's like, yeah, they're a music band, but we're doing our thing. They're doing their thing. Why am I getting so wound up about it? So I started looking into that, and it goes right back all the way back to childhood. I think some of it, and I'm not saying that. I'm not excusing myself. There is some personal responsibility, I think, which I didn't see before, but now I do.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's understandable as well, and sometimes it's tongue in cheek, and sometimes it's in just momentary
Yeah,
anger, isn't
sure.
it? Yeah.
I think a lot of it also was not being able to take criticism as well. Like it sent me up the wall because my standards were so high, because it had taken me so long to get anywhere, because I'd gone through so much self discovery to a certain degree anyway, regarding musical structure and what a good band should be. My ideals were sky high. So anyone that would criticize me, I would always look at them as as not relevant, as D-listers or whatever, and still do. But it's just being able to take it on the nose, isn't it? It's like, yeah, all right. I think you're a cunt. I think the music you write shit. You're a wanker. But maybe it might be because it's just not for me. You know what I mean? As well,
it is a personal thing, isn't it?
Yeah, sure. So it was quite a sort of revelation of sorts.
Yeah, I was really happy to see that rapprochement there with Idols, because I figured, like you said a minute ago, there's the enemy's actually somebody else, isn't it? And
well, I mean, sorry, go on.
Yeah, there's a shared audience in it, and different versions, but it's a shared objective in a sense.
I think so.
There's only a clutch of bands who actually make any attempt to critique the way things are or whatever, and you're two of them. So
yeah, I think
yeah.
Joe Talbot Idols, they just aren't the problem. In fact, this whole debate around class structure, yeah, sure. Of course, it's an argument. It's not even an argument. There is rights and wrongs about it. Of course, working class people are somewhat sheltered from access, but also at the same time, working class culture is interesting because it struggles. And I think most working class people, really, if they were honest with themselves, would welcome that struggle. It's a sense of identity. Nobody wants anything on the plate. you know, getting free clothes all the time just makes you think, it makes you devalue the whole thing about clothes. You know, the idea of going out and buying a £40 shirt is far more rewarding than getting free clothes all the time, if you know what I mean. So, yeah, of course, yeah, like I say, you know, the politics behind it, of course it's a thing, but you know, it's you've got to be careful what you wish for. And I've said this to a few people. It's like, you know, most of the working, or a lot of the working class bands, or so they say, coming out at the minute, are just as fucking annoying sometimes. So it doesn't really matter where you come from. What matters is what is good and what isn't, really, you know.
There aren't enough voices, though, are there? The working class voices. It's not particularly the problem with bands like the Idols. It's fine. They do what they do really well. It's the fact that the other 100 versions of Sleaford Mods can't get out of their little towns, can they? So because the way the system is.
I think the system's always been set up for us to struggle. There's always been, as I've said this before, there's always been a drop in, you know, music venues closing. There's always been a Spotify. There's always been a hurdle. So for me, it's almost, and I'm going to sound almost Thatcherite here. It's like the one thing that I always felt I needed to do was get off my fucking arse and find a way. You know what I mean? I can remember when Pill supported Madness at Finsbury Park, and John Lydon walked out on stage, and it was really powerful. He went, "What are you fucking doing? Do something. Get a fucking job." Fucking so powerful. And that in itself is, to me, the essence of punk, of this idea of just fucking stand up, you know. I find that a lot of the noise around debates like this are just that. It's just noise and people just talking about it all the time. It's like, if you really fucking want it, you'll go and get it. You know what I mean? But, you know, if you're just going to sit there and have 54 tattoos plastered all over you and ring out some music that someone's already done, what the fuck do you expect? You know, it's like, it's all about fucking getting out there and doing something.
Yeah, it's interesting to say that, because, like, I mean, Tally's a minute ago, you talk about you got really high standards. I mean, you know, for some people, they would just think Sleaford Mods basically one bloke presses a button on a laptop and other blokes are shouting, "Oh, that looks really easy." But there's a lot of graft went into that, and there it's the way you move on the stage. The amount, I don't even know how you can remember all the lyrics. There's hundreds of them, and it's incredibly professional, incredibly very polished in a really weird kind of way, and very, very well thought out. The whole thing. It's not just ad hoc at all, is it?
No, it's like, I get the most impression from a lot of musicians who are relying too much on narrative, that they're treating this like a BTEC college course almost. It's like, no, this is fucking serious. You know, it's really serious. It took us 25 years to get anywhere. And we went through various formations as individuals, through various bands, and through fields and fields of fucking hopelessness. And, you know, a lot of the time I just gave up, just fucking did, but I just fell back into it because, you know, my passion and love for creating songs is too big. You know, it always came back to me. You know, I just find a lot of people are preferring themselves to be just stuck in the fucking mud. And, you know, I'm surely, fuck, if you can walk and talk, you can fucking work. And if you can work, then you can find a fucking way, you know. I went from job to job, this, that, and the fucking other. And I don't want to sound like some moaning old bloke, but where do you draw the fucking line here? You know what I mean? It's like less about the narrative, more about the action, I think.
Yeah, because there's always a myth that being in a band is a way to avoid having a job. But if you do it properly, it's actually hard. Well, like Oasis, they would rehearse every day for 6 hours, you know, and it's the same with you, isn't it? It's the graft. The art comes from the graft, doesn't it?
It's a self-belief, you know. I mean, them Oasis lads were completely and utterly, you know, married to the cause in their own ways. And, you know, in some respects, they aren't taken seriously like that because they are working class people that at the time couldn't really articulate why, but they did. You know, the articulation came through the passion it came from the emotion in the music, you know. So, yeah, you know, all these bands, anyone I grew up with, They were transfixed. They were obsessed. They had a fucking mandate, whatever that was, and they worked towards it. I would keep myself childless, relationshipless, and just work shit jobs because that was my plan. Right, that's what I'm going to do in order to get anywhere. And a lot of the time, as I've said, I gave up, but it paid off in the end. You know what I mean?
Did you go to acting college? I'm sure somebody mentioned that. Did you learn to act?
I tried, yeah. I did GCSE and A level with theatre studies. And
I'm only mentioning that because I love the way you move around on the stage. It's minimalist, theatrical.
I was really taken by, as a kid, Freddie Starr show, Russ Abbott. I mean, that Freddie Starr show was, absolute. I mean, it was seminal in the sense of comedy. Yeah, all right, there are parts of it that are quite dated now, etc. But I was really into that, and also the comedians on a Saturday afternoon where they just stand there and their facial expressions, and occasionally they'd move. Obviously, you had John Lydon's, Richard III, sort of Max Hall type thing, Laurel and Hardy, Harold Lloyd, Axl Rose, Paul Weller. All these people rolled into one, and that's what comes out. Also, you go to the gym yourself, the angle. It's like I've started incorporating exercises into it just because it looks fucking stupid. The worse it looks, the better it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, there's a big dollop of humour in there. Even the most tragic lyrics, there's funny lines, and the way you move on the stage, it's kind of funny, but kind of scary at the same time. It's a perfect kind of balance.
Yeah, I think. I don't. You don't. I really fucking. That I don't know about you, but the older I get, I'm like, I can't look at myself. Oh my god. But whilst you're on stage, it's fine. You can't see yourself, and so it's fine, and so you're completely comfortable. And all of these things come out. When you start a tour, it's kind of like you planting the seed with performance, and then by halfway through it, you've established a routine for the whole set, and by the end of the year, you're flying. You know what I mean?
Were you surprised when, about a couple of years ago, when Andrew started moving, running around stage as well, after years just being standing there, just looking at the laptop?
I think he was so. I think we were so shell shocked by lockdown that I think that was an expression of him wanting to feel like he was alive again, And he turned around the other week. He's like, I'm gonna start pulling it back because I think he just feels like that now. It's like, okay, we came out of lockdown, which is incidentally, I don't think we've dealt with it, have we, really? And I think it peppers how we are with each other, especially online. But going back to that, I think that was just an expression of lockdown, really. I mean, not being able to leave the house all day. I mean, fucking hell. It's just insane, isn't it? Nobody talks about it anymore as well. It's bizarre,
Yeah, but like you say, the shadow lingers long, doesn't it? I think the way the whole world is, all comes out of lockdown, doesn't it? Yeah.
Especially the mob, especially left and right. We've never been a left band. We've never been a left-wing band. We've always been a humanist band, a band that veers more towards not so much anarchism, because obviously, we're homeowners, we're capitalists, whatever, but we're free thinkers, and what you're seeing online now, and I'm no different. I'm not saying I fucking am, but people are so nasty, like beyond fucking nasty, to the point, especially bands. They are trying to almost end other bands' careers. It's insane.
I think another thing I really like about you, that you don't have a certainty. I think these days everything's black or white, and most people just confused. And what you do is actually admit the confusion. You don't resolve things in songs. You just say, I have no idea what's going on here.
No, I think I'm really suspicious of mandates of, okay, you can have political beliefs. I think, a friend of mine said the other day, the problem is everyone's opinions are so strong that it's hard for anyone to act cognitively with each other, which I agree with, and people, I do for the most part, I think people really believe in what they feel, what they are opinionated about. But it becomes something else entirely when that's then presented to us as the answer, as the clear way to be a good human being. That's when it becomes problematic.
And also, another thing I really like on this album, I mean, you've done it before. You've had sort of different singers, different collaborators, but you got more this time, and I think they all work really well. Lots of very different ways. So, like on the Sing On Good Life, you've
Yeah.
got like double bubble there, haven't you?
Oh, it's double bubble. Look at that. Yeah. Yeah, defo. I mean, Big Special.
Yeah,
We toured with them, Joe and Cal. I really like what they did with that debut album, the second album as well.
they're
And
great bands.
yeah, I'd written The Good Life as early as the chorus anyway, as early as summer 2023, but I just couldn't. Who can I get? You know, I had a few people because I just couldn't sing it myself. You know, it was so that chorus is so smooth. It needs to be smooth, and it occurred to me that Joe and Cal would be ideal. You know, so we got them on, and Gwendolyn Christie, who I was started to talk to around that period anyway. She followed us on Instagram. Eventually, we got her in to do my inner voice, so to speak. You know.
Yeah, it's great just because it's just like a scary shouting thing, isn't it? She's actually doing the kind of psychotic part, isn't she?
Yeah. Well, the idea was it's like I started writing the verses for it. I had the choruses, and Claire, our manager, was like, "You can't be punching down because you're going to get bollocked for it. You need to stop punching down." I've been cancelled a fair few times for various things. And one of them was, allegedly punching down, which, I don't agree with, but I was like, okay, all right. She's like, look, you can't be getting this shit again. So it occurred to me that I wasn't going to change the lyrics anyway, but it's like, what I was going to make out was I'm not punching down, but I am really, but why am I? And going back to what we were talking about with Joe and Idols, why am I, Is it mostly because I don't feel seen? Is it mostly because my band or the band I'm in isn't getting the attention it was getting 10 years ago? And so Gwendolyn's part discusses this idea that internally, if I'm, when you slack people off online, you feel great for a couple of days, but then it comes back to you, starts slapping you around the face. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You get your comeuppance in a way. It's like, if you're really vicious about someone, it comes back to you. And so Gwendolyn's part tried to communicate that. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, the song itself's like it's like a play, like a Greek tragedy.
Yeah, it's brilliant. I mean, I mean, totally. She came in. I mean, it was just fantastic. I wrote the piece for her. She had no problem with that. She direct me, tell me what to do. Fucking brilliant. And Joe and Cal, they came and nailed it in about 2 takes.
Yeah, he's got a great voice. I mean,
great voice. Yeah. So shooting the video with Ben Wheatley was magical. Got in there, Ben and Andy Stark are like, right, this is what we're going to do. Fucking brilliant. I really love working with people that know what they're doing.
Yeah, Ben Wheatley's fantastic, and his films are great as well. It's such a perfect tie-up, like you working with him. So, and also I really like what Sue Tompkins did on No Touch, because it gives it instead of a lot of shouty blokes, it's almost like the complete opposite, but it's really effective.
Oh God, yeah, fucking hell. Again, that was another song that I'd done the chorus for it, but it just in fact didn't seem right. And Jeanette Lee upstairs, I'm at Rough Trade now, but Jeanette upstairs was like, "Have you heard of Sue Tompkins?" I'm like, "No, who's that?" So she played us Life Without Buildings. And I immediately knew that she could work on a song. In fact, we've done 2 songs with her, and the other one's coming out after the album's release. But she's just fantastic. It is almost bizarrely the opposite of what The Good Life is. It's both ends of the spectrum. And I'm not talking about that's glamorous and this isn't, but it's the sonics of both of them are completely different but carry the same thread, you know.
Mm. And also Snowy on Kill This, which I thought was good. So it's another very key part what you do in it, you know, that it's kind of, you know, ostensibly sort of punky, but the hip hop thing so important, and the rap thing, and the way that you are nowadays, like a middle-aged white rapper, but it's really it's a very British rapper. But having
Thank
Snowy
you.
on a local lad as well, it's like another generation in it, and it's good to recognise that British rap has its own meter, its own swing.
I think so, and that's really nice you saying that. I think you know, it's important to keep that element in still. I think, you know, largely grime has been forgotten. You know, to a certain degree, people get fed up, I guess, but at the same time, drill, grime, whatever you want to call it, trap, it's fucking still there. It's still working away, you know. And I'm always, you know, occasionally taken to it, to hip hop as well in general, contemporary rap. So yeah, but also, you know, these things are inbuilt. So the minute you got a beat like that, you start rapping, and it's like, oh, okay, you know, I'm at the point now where, you know, what I'm doing rap wise is I think, you know, it's really good. It's interesting, and it holds its own. So getting Snowy in was a no brainer for that track. It just suits his voice as well, you know.
Mm. Yeah, because the initial mistake British rappers made was trying to do American style, but they talk differently than we do. You know,
Yeah,
we're
you can't do
we're
it.
more monotone, and we're more into
Yeah.
mundane stuff. We're not into like coke and 5-star hotels. It's about bus stops and
Yes,
shit
it
beans,
is. You
isn't
know,
it?
I think so. You know, to a certain degree. I mean, there's nothing wrong with taking that Americanism. I think, but
Mm,
I think you know, people like Snowy work really hard, and you know, a lot of the time it feels like he's getting nowhere. You know, and
mm.
he's completely married to the cause, as we were saying earlier. And you know, it's important. Yeah, I felt really good that we found something that he could work on, so we bring him into the mix a bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, brilliant. So, well, nearly out of time there. So, well, thanks, Jason. I really enjoyed it. And the album's great. So, look forward to coming
Thank
out
you, thank
in
you.
January. And
Yes.
good luck with everything. I'll see you on the tour somewhere.